Welcome to the Ron and John Show, brought to you by Veterans Lending Group, and I'm Ron.
And I am John. This is the Ron and John Show. Hey, at the Ron and John Show, we're known coast to coast like butter and toast. We can make ISIS surrender or die, or make even the nerdiest guy look kind of fly. We can drink like we've been singing all night long, and we can sing like we've been drinking all night long. So if you're looking for a good time, don't you delay. Tune into the Ron and John Show. Me and this Ranger, we lead the way. Boom!
And we're live. Welcome back to another Ron and John Show. I am Ron.
And I am John. And thank you all for tuning in to the Ron and John Show this week. Today we have an absolute special guest with us today. And for anybody that's in the Pacific Northwest area or an NFL fan around, you know this guy. And especially if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, you know this guy. Today we have Vice President and General Manager of the Seattle Seahawks, Mr. John Schneider. John, sir, thank you for being here today.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate the kind words. And again, appreciate everything you guys have done for our country and serving and the servanthood that you guys show and trying to help everybody out right now.
Hey, you know, I don't think we have enough Seahawk logos on your background back there. I think we can put another 500 in there if we need to.
This is the room.
Yeah. Hey, John, so thanks for being here today. First and foremost, we want our audience to know who you are, and how you got to where you're at, So if you could kind of give us, the one over the world of John Schneider and where you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, small town kid from Green Bay, Wisconsin, just lived and breathed Packer football growing up. Played, thought I was going to be Walter Payton, and that didn't come to fruition in college. And then God steered me down a path of personnel scouting. I was able to get an internship with Ron Wolf, who's now in the Hall of Fame, and just he had just taken over the Packers, and I had read his story about he was a history major, intelligence officer, and I read his story about how he got hooked up with Al Davis, and so I just kind of started writing him letters. I think he'd tell you the same thing. I kind of stalked him. Just prayed super hard on an interview, and was able to get an interview with him. Went down there and just never left the building, and ate jelly-filled donuts and crullers and drank coffee until I gained about 20 pounds, so I could get a job and learn how to evaluate and learn, his from all the people that were there. It was an incredible experience. It was basically the time, you didn't get your doctorate in sports administration like you do now, or your master's in sports administration. And so I was going to be a high school teacher and coach high school football and go from there. And was just blessed to get in with that group. It was like Coach Holmgren, John Gruden, Andy Reid, Dick Duran, Ted Thompson. I mean, it was like this who's who of the National Football League, and that was my master's program. I didn't really realize it at the time. So we were there for 5 years. We won a world championship, and when I was 25, I went to my wife Tracy and I moved to Kansas City to be the director of pro personnel there. And then that was pretty cool working with Carl Peterson and Marty Schottenheimer was a huge influence on me. Terry Bradway, who ended up taking over the Jets after that. So was there for 3 years and came out here when Coach Holmgren came out to the Seahawks. And then Marty Schottenheimer went to the Redskins. So I went to the Redskins with him the year after that. And we were there. We were in our house for 8 months and got fired. We were 8-8 and got fired. Ouch.
Oh, wow.
So, great learning experience, right? You got to pick yourself up and move on, move back to Green Bay. Was in Green Bay for 8 more years. Obviously, great organization. Blessed to be back around my family. Was able to see a bunch of my nephews and nieces, and my nephews play high school ball and all that kind of stuff, which was a blast. And then, we moved our 2 boys, Ben and Jack, out here in 2010 to hook up with 𝘬𝘪𝘵𝘀 and Paul Allen had hired Pete and myself, and it's been pretty crazy. It's been a fun ride. We're now preparing for our 12th draft, which is, it just blows your mind how fast time goes, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
and now now we're here, right? So yeah, in the middle of our 11th season together.
Wow, that's incredible. And now, your first Super Bowl was with what team?
Green Bay.
Green Bay.
Yeah.
And then
we're coming down the sidelines. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And then
New Orleans. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And then shot back here, right?
Yep. So we went to 2 here. We won the first one, and then we're pretty close on the second one.
Yeah, right. You know, when I put out the questions of, hey, yeah, right. You know, put out the questions to the our audiences ahead of time and say, hey, what questions did you have? And it was all, you know, strategy stuff. So we were not going to go there. They all want to know. But, you know, your job now, you'd mentioned, you know, just we were kind of talking in the, you know, the green room, so to speak, as far as what your job and your role is now. And I think that for a lot of fans, they, you know, they pick who they want to be mad at or cheer on at the time. So if you could just let everyone know, like, for what is in your wheelhouse right now for the Seahawks as an EVP and a GM, do those roles blend in with each other?
Yeah, no, the way I describe it to people that, you know, if I'm sitting on a plane and I don't want to say to somebody, well, I'm the general manager, or the, you know what I mean? You don't really want to be necessarily talking about what you do. I always just say that I'm basically in human resources, right?
Yeah.
I'm studying people, I'm managing people, I'm leading people, trying to understand people. And I know you guys would know this, you know, what, you know, the talent portion of it is something that we're constantly working on developing, how we study the player and what coaches are looking for and that sort of thing, from a scheme standpoint. But, you know, really, what's in the heart? What's in the mind? Are you gonna run to the fight? Are you gonna run away from the fight? What have you overcome in your life? What's your grit level? Those are really the things that are, you know, if you say wheelhouse, that's kind of like a general overview of, you know, how we conduct or what, you know, I have going on a daily basis. Problem solving, a lot of problem solving. I had a GM, a former GM, 𝘵𝘩𝘭𝘭𝘆, tell me one time, he said, you know, you're going to wake up every morning and, you know, just get yourself mentally prepared that you're not going to have, you know, there's going to be 5 to 10 things that come across your desk that you're not prepared for. And then you're going to have, you know, people all day kind of trying to give you their monkeys, right? And then you gotta be strong enough and man enough to give them your monkeys right back. So also you don't have 12 monkeys on your back at, you know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So, you know, really trying to, you know, the things that you don't see coming, right? Like, you know, yeah, I remember my first year, you know, bear hugging I'm a 5'8" guy, right? And I'm bear hugging a 6'5", 320-pound man who's, you know, best friend had just committed suicide, right? And so trying to figure out, you know, how to deal with that, or, you know, on the flip side, trying to get a guy that, you know, is bringing, you know, a player who's bringing 2 dogs out, you know, won't pick up this dog's poop right outside the apartment, so he's gonna get kicked out. So they bring him to my office, and I gotta tell him to pick up his dog's poop. You know what I mean? Like, the wide, you know, very, very, very wide range of aspects that go into it. And I joke about it, but it truly is leading in a general fashion. Like, there's no, it's, I mean, everything that goes into it, right? Grit, psychological, and knowing people, right? Knowing the doctors, knowing the trainers, knowing the strength conditioning guys, our sports science people. How do they convey their messages on players, and how are we doing? Where are we going? How are we getting better every day as a team?
So, John, you mentioned, you know, the from the outside looking in, the assumption is that anybody that is invited to a Seahawks training camp is a world-class athlete, world-class football player in their specialty. When you have to whittle it down to a roster of 53 and you have world-class talent around you, that's got to be very tough in terms of, are we going to have the right culture or the right chemistry, and how do we get after it with that 53? Can you kind of describe how difficult of a process that is in making sure that you've got the right 53 that you think will get you to where you want to get to, and that's to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Very insightful. It's really the most unique weekend in our world because you have all these professional athletes and guys that have been busting their tail and doing everything that their coaches have been asking of them. Now obviously this year's been just completely jacked up and different with the whole COVID situation, but you get to that weekend where you cut down to 53, and on one hand you're giving a message to players that they're not going to make your team, right? They're really bad conversations. They're not fun. We don't take pride in them. We're a developmental organization and we pride ourselves on that, but then yet we're telling guys that, hey, you may have to move on. Now some of those guys will come back and be on our practice squad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that clarity and letting those guys know exactly where they stand and what transpired and why they're being released. The other part of it is the strategic part, which our staff does a great job with, and we spend a ton of time with, in terms of what the whole landscape of the season is going to look like and how we're going to study what positions look stronger than others when everybody's getting cut, what practice squads are going to look like, who we're going to bring in and work out to have, ready as our, you guys, the next man up, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's, and then there's also the component of the trades that we're negotiating. And then also there's a portion of waiver claims as well. So that weekend is to us is actually more unique than the draft weekend itself. The draft, the preparation is all, by the time we get to the draft, we close the draft, the doors, and we're ready to go when the draft starts. And then the draft weekend's over. Then we transition to moving the guys into the building and working through the offseason program, adding the rookies in. The 53 weekend is very much about what's the season going to look like. And, a lot of coaches have different views on this. Some coaches would say, okay, once you have your 53, that's your 53. And, Pete and myself, we constantly talk about competition here. It's what drives this organization. Getting better every single day. And so what we're constantly trying to do is find out who can challenge the next player. And that goes all the way through the roster. I remember Mike Holmgren telling our team in Green Bay a long time ago. And I'm not sure if it was the year we won the Super Bowl or if it was the year prior. I think it was the year prior, probably. He said, there's two people on this team that are going to make it. And he was in front of the whole team. He said, Brett Favre and Reggie White. The rest of you guys need to get your beep together. So it's a great question. The 53 is basically about, you have that sick to your stomach feeling of you've been asking these guys to bust their tail. And then also, you feel like you're letting them down to a certain extent. You got to keep focusing on what is right and best for the organization. And ultimately that's our job. And we take a lot of pride in that. And as well as figuring out that weekend what the landscape's going to look like for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. So a quick follow on to that. So you got a pretty good season going so far. I would say the only undefeated team in the NFC right now. I'm reading the newspaper right, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the 53 that are on the team right now will be the same 53 throughout the season, if I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially in this COVID year. I mean, we're talking.
Yeah.
You know, I keep hitting Pete on. Look, we have 69 players. Okay, because we have the 16 practice squad players. They added 6 more for us so that we can have because of the whole COVID situation, you can move 2 players up from your practice squad, so you can really go to 55.
Oh, okay.
On Sundays. A ton of new rules. But being able to give us some roster flexibility, and so being able to preach to the coaching staff, like, it's not necessarily a normal year with practice squad guys where you can just say, okay, well, this guy's purely a developmental player. Now these guys have to be ready to play because we have these contact tracing issues as well. So if somebody comes down with test positive for COVID, we also have the tracers, and then they tell us who could be affected and who we need to pull out, and you could get to game weekend and have that issue at a specific position because these guys are. I'm sitting in the wide receiver room right now. These guys are, they can be in fairly close contact at times. Obviously, we have them socially distanced, but you can't totally control 100% exactly how close they're going to be. So yeah, having that flexibility to move players up and move them down is huge for us this year.
Awesome.
You mentioned earlier as far as how you select these world-class athletes, right? From it's not only physical, but it's that what John and I call PMA hard, right? Physical, mental, and emotionally tough.
Very cool.
With that is it's the way you described yourself is kind of like a senior NCO, I'd say. I don't look at you as an officer, so that's a compliment, right? but because you're in the people business and you're consistently and constantly evaluating these individuals, and I can imagine that 53 how much of that, when you're selecting and whittling that down, how much time are you able to spend with these individuals? Because it sounds like you have to determine that fairly quickly if they're going to be a fit for the culture. What their, like you said, what their past is, what's their grit like. So if you could just go in that people personal side, aside from the physical, and what that looks like.
Yeah. So again, this is an odd. So you kind of take this year. You have to kind of push this year out, right? So in a normal year, you have that time where the veterans come back in the middle of March for their off-season program. You're adding rookies. You have enough time with the OTAs and the mini camps and everything where you can we talk about like not having things just from a communication standpoint, not having things just kind of drag under the table. Just get everything on the table, address it as quickly as you can so guys know where they stand. As a Division III player, I wanted to know where I stand. All I wanted to know was why those guys put that guy ahead of me as a punt returner, which I never got the answer on, by the way. But anyway, and working with Marty Schottenheimer and Ted Thompson, who was the general manager and helped really was a very important has been an important part of my life, my professional career, training me in not having been in a professional locker room. These were 2 very strong leaders who were constantly a 52nd or 53rd player, right? So they were always they did a really great job of training me and teaching me how to relate to the guys that are very concerned about if whether or not they're going to make the team and what what that anxiety level looks like and what they should be thinking about. So just being able to pull a guy aside and say, hey man, make sure you show up on special teams this weekend. It's going to be very important for you, and this is the role. And there's been a couple of years where I've actually wrote the guys and a note before they all left for the off. We call it the off season, but right after the period when the guys leave for summer, right before they come back for training camp, where like, hey, appreciate all your hard work. It's clear you've been busting your tail. You may want to think about A, B, and C. And then when, that message is on the table then. So when they come back, they know that, hey, if I'm not contributing on special teams, but, not having to make plays on teams, and by the time you sit down and have that, kind of ugly conversation at the 53 cut down, then they kind of know going in, like, man, I didn't do a good enough job to, have the coaches have confidence in me to be a contributor on special teams. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do that on our practice squad, right? You can't earn that back, earn it back throughout the season. But I think just having that that concise, as concise and as I don't want to say easy, but just those natural, organic conversations about, like, hey man, this is what it's going to look like for you. This is what your first year is going to look like. And some guys come in, some guys' self-efficacy, as you guys know, is just completely off the charts. Mm-hmm. And then some guys are they don't know how talented they are. And we come across a lot of some small school guys. We have a guy on our team right now who's a corner, and and I'm telling him he's from a small school, and I'm like, look, man, like, you belong, you got great hips, you got great feet, you got great ball skills, you got the length, you got everything we're looking for. Go for it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. You got this, and Pete does such a great job of instilling confidence in people too. I think you saw that earlier when we got here with guys like later on, guys like Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman and guys like that. Like, man, Brian Maxwell, Walter Thurman, like, you guys are ballers, and so it's a pretty cool combination, those two things, with acquisition and combining acquisition and combining that developmental aspect with your confidence and the technical skills that go into this.
Yeah, awesome. So, John, we've been talking a lot about your role and then when it comes to the players, but let's get to the people behind the scenes, the players' families, the staff, the front office people, and how do the Seahawks try to make their organization one that is about quality of life for everybody within the organization, but also taking into account the family members, not just of the players, but everybody there. How do you all approach that and get after it?
Yeah, it's hard. We've always talked about, like, we're gonna work our tails off. Like, like, everybody's gonna do that. We're gonna put a ton of pressure on ourselves. Well, we're gonna have a blast doing it. We don't ever just kind of turn our phones off or anything, especially on the acquisition side, right? Or anything that's going to come up from security issue or player development or any issues that we have. It's really, if anything, you guys, we've had to it's not complacency, but you have to be careful when you give people, a ton of freedoms. But I think that we have the right people over time now. We've been able to kind of fit the right people in that know how long that rope is and what that means and how much pride they can take in doing their jobs, being with their families. My immediate staff is acquisition, right? So, we were all kicked out of here for the draft preparation. So now we have these setups at our house that are unbelievable. So it's like, hey guys, it's okay. Like, go home. Some guys, several guys on my staff have, small children. It's like, go home, manage your time appropriately, like, put the kids to bed, and then go to your second office now, because you got your COVID office now too, right? Yeah. You can sit down, you can study there. We're not as necessarily old school as we used to be. In order to study the film, we had these big beta machines that were, like 300 pounds or something, right? So you had to be in the office, and we shared film too. We shared the beta tapes. So we had to check them out, like, at a library, right, in the building, and that's coaching and personnel, player personnel. So being able to say, hey, like, how do you organize? You can do that at home now, is my point, right? Like, we have our laptops and our iPads, and our video guys do a great job of that, and of helping us organize to be able to study at home. So and then with everybody that's anybody that's touching our players is so, we hold them in such high regard. And so, they have to be right. They have, the strength coaches, our strength coaches are unbelievable. I mean, they, when those guys, when these players walk through the door at 6 o'clock every morning, like, our guys are just right there, just enthusiastic as hell. Like, all right, here we go. It's gonna be a great day. Let's get ripping. Like, those guys are and that affects the players, right? And then we also have our 𝘠𝘠𝘕 is our player development guy. He does a phenomenal job of he's got a staff with Mario Bailey and Connie, and they do a great job of balancing like what that home life looks like. And hey, if you're having any issues, these are the people you go to, and I can bring you here, I can bring you there. You're gonna finish school. How can we help you finish your degree, or how can we help your significant other get a job, or what are the best hospitals in town, the best doctors in town, and anything that we do that touches the players, we want to make their life as first class and as nothing's easy, but it's as easy as it can be, especially when they're transitioning into being, all football all the time. And that's really, they have the 1 day off a week on Tuesdays. Other than that, they're going all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying. How do you, when you're in that world of, it just doesn't stop, like for you guys, right? You mean if you think,
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like the military.
yeah, no, you're never in a,
Yep.
I was never, I've been on family vacations where, here's a perfect one for you. Okay, so the first weekend that my wife and Tracy and the boys were out here in 2010, it was right after the draft. We were going to drive up to Whidbey Island, beautiful island up there. We're just going to take a nice drive and, take the kids to lunch. It's our, like the family just got there, everything. Well, I get a call from the security guy, and I'm like, oh no, okay, what's going on? What happened, right? Well, we had a rookie who the night before had come home from a late evening with a couple college buddies and decided to, steal some, scare the crap out of the donut store and steal some donuts before they went upstairs and crashed. Okay. I mean, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, so I got to call the guy and be like, come on, man, like, what are you doing? Da, 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 da. Oh, yeah, no, it's bad. Well, then the next day we're out taking this trip and I got a call. They did the same thing the next night. They did the same exact thing. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, what, you're never going to not, who's going to handle this, right? So, and that's with, I remember taking a call from Marv Levy, who I'm thinking to myself, holy cows. I mean, I was playing with Matchbox cars when Marv Levy was a coach, right? And here I am taking a call from Marv Levy, telling my kids to, be quiet in the back seat. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and I'm just for you guys. I mean, I just think you always have to try to be on point. You're never going to not be, not working or not doing what's best for your team and your teammates. And that's, it's so special to be able to have that, working with a team and, evaluating every strengths and weaknesses. I think that's probably the most fun part of my job.
Hey, Ron, you're right. I think we're going to start calling John Sergeant Major Schneider because, he's the guy that gets the calls when Joe is doing some silly stuff like, snatching donuts and stuff. So we're going to make you an honorary Sergeant Major, John.
I'm trying to make it light, right? I go to lunch. I probably can't get into that, but stealing donuts was about as light as I could get.
Yeah, I won't mention whose name that is, but that was a classic story in Seahawks history. Now, you talked about earlier, you touched on, the different situations you may run into, hugging a large football player because, his best friend committed suicide or what have you. So in our line of work, both of ours is, mental health is one of the big things that we're about, and that's like I said, we talk about that PME hard, which starts with physical, but goes mental and emotional. Now I know that's, there's a lot of different programs that have evolved over time. as the different exposures to obviously injuries and stuff like that, which there's parallels here with the military and what that looks like. But could you just describe a little bit about that like kind of where we are now as far as that evolution? Let's say last, from 5 years ago to now, as far as the support with the mental health, and either that be across the NFL or specifically there at the Seahawks, and how important that is to the team and the organization and to you as leaders.
Yeah, I could address both really. That I think I would definitely say that from a Seahawks standpoint, we've had a learning curve, but the empathy that we have for individuals and having them be at their whether it's players or staff, whether having people be at their best, what that entails is that openness, right? And we're in a world where in my opinion it's you just saw what Dak Prescott went through, right? And there's a lot of that goes on. There's a lot of anxiety for these guys when they're there was a lot of anxiety this past year when guys were trying to decide whether or not they were going to enter the bubble and play. And then there's a lot of anxiety, believe it or not, for guys that are doing big contracts. It's people think, well, geez, I mean, that guy's, making, he's guaranteed $30 million. Well, yes, that's amazing. But there's a lot of stresses that come along with that throughout the process of having a negotiation, because in a negotiation, no matter who you're negotiating with, it tends to get personal at times. It's you don't want it to, but it just kind of naturally does. So there's a lot of anxiety and angst there. And then, also, the league's done a really good job of saying, hey, it's okay. And then if, to get help, we have that, that masculine level of, I don't want to let these people know, like, I don't want to know that I'm a little off, today, or that I need help. But I think the ability to the empathy and the non-judgmental aspect that we have in our culture of, you're not soft. If anything, you're stronger by coming out and saying, like, hey, I need some help. I got I got this going on. I have that going on. It's marriage. It could be, drinking. It could be drugs. It could be, there's a lot of there's again, the anxiety of making a football team, right? What does that look like? Guys dropping balls when you're like, yeah, I can't believe this guy's dropping the ball. I mean, we had a punt returner one time who we had drafted him when I was in Green Bay, and he led the nation in punt return average or yards or something like that. And he just ended up, he had gotten in some trouble off the field and then just got the yips, and it just didn't work out. He played for one other team. So yeah, I just think that having that empathy and I think things are definitely changing, and that's one of the reasons that my wife Tracy and I are huge supporters with 𝘬𝘠𝘬𝘠, with MVP. Because it's before, just in his LA group, they had 60 veterans and players that they brought together that had already tried to commit suicide, and now since they've gotten together, they've had 0 attempts. And so and they just keep expanding and they have their Wednesday meetings where it's kind of like a AA meeting, and I don't really remember that existing. And I know I know that the pressures that go along with this job and the pressures that all the guys feel, and heck, you guys, it's not just players. I mean, it's it can be somebody in the video department that's feeling overwhelmed. It could be somebody in the equipment room that players want to like just work with all the time, so he's getting bombarded with work. So I think we're much more open and honest about it, and we don't look at it as a deficiency. If anything, especially when we're studying guys coming out of college, and we're talking to counselors or whatever, or guys are just open with us, we view it as a part of your, your grit. You called it what'd you call it? PMI?
PME hard, physically, mentally, and emotionally hard. That's kind of my logo in my calling card.
Very cool.
Yeah, I just think, and it's, as I was listening to you describe this, John, the similarities are overwhelming with the military in terms of a stigma towards seeking help for mental or emotional issues. It still exists in the military and in our veteran population. We have this alpha male kind of attitude that if I stand up and say I need to seek help, I'm showing weakness, when, as you described, and Ron and I both agree, it's a strength,
Absolutely.
and you're much more an asset because you're coming forward with something that could prevent you from having peak operational performance or could be a detriment to the quality of life for you and your family.
Yeah, and your teammates, the people you're supporting. And when I hear people talk about, that are not sensitive to the issue, you just know for a fact that those are people that have not gone through issues like that.
Absolutely.
People don't know that to me, it's like that's coming from somebody that has not experienced something. It's like an opinion on something. And instead of like, wow, several years ago, I felt like this, or I felt like that. And so when I hear that stuff, it just, it frustrates me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a question here from one of our audience members. And the question is, does he plan on putting in some time at the driving range before the annual Swing for a Soldier in July 2021? Asking for a friend, AKA hashtag still wearing that ankle bracelet. He says he'll know what that means. Of course, that's from our lovely Leslie Main at the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation. Can you elaborate on what that is?
So we were finishing up. We were coming up 18, and I like to play, but I'm not very good at all. And I don't practice. We just kind of go out there and have a good time, especially with these causes. I love doing it and interacting with people, and just having a blast during the summer vacations and stuff. And great cause. And Leslie was driving up the side, and I smoked, like, it was almost a worm burner, but like kind of came cruising around and hit her right in the leg. And so yeah, I felt awful about it. And I mean, we yelled for, but
man, I didn't know where that was going. That would have been a great rapid fire.
I just felt awful about it. And they have a real great tournament. I wasn't able to go this year, obviously, with the COVID deal going on.
Sure.
Our bubble that we had, but we love supporting it, and Packy does a great job with it as well. And he's doing whatever he can. And so it's so awesome. It's, I'm in the autism world with my oldest son, and my wife Tracy and I. We have a Ben's fund that so we've raised, I think close to $6 million now for families that can't afford treatments.
Oh, that's great.
Throughout the state of Washington. And so when we started out in that world, it felt like, it felt like we were kind of grabbing from this group and that group, and people were kind of spread out, and how you were looking for help, and who you could turn to in terms of getting help with funds, or just the psychological support. The divorce rates, like,
Right.
it's like 87% or something like that. And I feel like that, having worked now with, spending as much time with Jay as I have, and Packy, I feel like the military community, I feel like they're starting to there's more people coming together more on this. I wish we would, it's going down a whole other road, but I wish we would talk about it, be on, be where you'd see more commercials for it, and you'd see more in mainstream media about how much help people need. And I respect what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So John, you talked about, veterans organizations, and how the Seahawks team, You know, you talked about MVP, you know, a very good one, you know, merging veterans with players. You know, some of the things that, you know, we've had a rough year this year with coronavirus, but also, you know, with some social issues, you know, trying to get after racial equality and everything, you know, and people see the average fan sees the NFL players as football players, and they don't see the human side of them and everything. How important is it for an organization like the Seahawks and the NFL in general to be in tune with what's going on socially in the country and conducting outreach as well, not just with, you know, military and veterans organizations, but overall being associated and in tune with what's going on in the country? How important is that?
Oh, I think it's very important, and you know, you can see it over the years what the league's done, and you know, working with, you know, the you know, cancer awareness, and the, you know, we have our military month, and you know, I think that obviously this year's been a very crazy year for everybody in our organization. You know, Pete's 20 years older than me. He's been through a lot of. He has a lot more experience in terms of, you know, growing up in San Francisco, where he grew up,
Mm-hmm.
and the racial tension that was going on there, and you know, post Vietnam, or right around the Vietnam time and all that, and
Yeah.
you know, so as a spokesperson, obviously he's much more in tune with that than I am. Having, you know, I always say I grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, but I actually grew up like out in the country. Like, you know, when Cam Chancellor, when we were playing there one time, he's like, we were downtown Green Bay, and he's like, I can't believe you grew up here. And I said, well, actually, they grew up right here. I grew up like way out there by about 10 miles, you know? So, no, I just think, you know, listening to everybody, right? Having that empathy, trying to learn, like, you know, what's going on. And, you know, I always go back to like, you know, just, you know, just like the Christian side of it, just treat everybody like you want to be treated. And
Absolutely.
you know, so, you know, yeah, I mean, it's been intense, and, you know, it's like our, you know, Pete got our players together. You know, we all went outside. I had a couple league calls, so I was running back and forth, but he did a great job of just letting the players just open up and just talk about, like, look, this is what I've been through, and this is what my family's gone through, and you know, you don't know that unless you're really sitting there, you know, understanding it and listening. So our thing is really just educating yourself and having that level of empathy for everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know, with that, and I talked about, I guess another parallel here is that transition, and I know that's a little bit, you know, out of your wheelhouse, but just overall, I mean, what is there programs within each organization that kind of deal with that aspect? Is there some sort of preparation at all, or is it?
Yeah. Our player, like I said, Mo Kelly, our player development, he's our vice president of player development. And he's had an opportunity to work at the league office several times. He's just incredible. He does a great job, and so he's constantly working with our players and what their transition looks like. And you know, some guys, you know, the lifespan's not long, right? Obviously, so you know, some guys, you know, get out early and you know, try to make a living as quickly as they can. You can always go back to school and get your degree, right? So, and what does that look like for them? So he helps them transition to finish their education, as well as working with you know, guys that want to move on. You know, Bobby Wagner does a ton of stuff with companies in the community, and you know,
I see him on TV every day.
Yeah, there you go. And Mo does a great job of helping these guys out with contacts and everything. And you know, we have our Legends program now that Mario Bailey's working with, and so being able to have those guys now, again, it's a tough year. So, but you know, having those guys, you know, having a Cliff Averill or the Cam Chancellor just walk out to practice is, you know, it's big for these guys. You got to remember now, a lot of these guys were, you know, playing Madden 6th, 7th grade, played in Madden football with Cam Chancellor, Michael Bennett or Cliff Averill or, whoever. And obviously you've seen that we're an organization that is willing to give people second chances and opportunities. When Marshawn came back last year and great stuff for us. So I think our legends and guys that have been here before us, that, we lost Cortez Kennedy several years ago, but he was a great ambassador for the organization. And 𝘲𝘀𝘲𝘶𝑬𝘐 is doing an awesome job in the community now and helping out. And so I think that, as the organization, this is a young organization, right? You got Jacksonville and Carolina, and then you got Tampa and Seattle, right? So, these are still young organizations. So having worked for a team like Kansas City or Green Bay, that whole alumni association is just naturally deeper. Max McGee in Green Bay would come back and talk to the players, and I think he had started applebee's or Howard Johnson's or something. So I think that the more time that goes by too, we'll have more and more of these legends that'll keep coming back, and these guys will help be able to reach out and have easier transition. But it is a transition now. You got to remember, these guys are going from very much, again, like the very, very similar, right? Your regimen every day, like bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
We went on vacation with a buddy of mine that played for a number of years, played big time college ball, and he'd be like, well, what time are we getting up? Like, what time are we grabbing lunch? What time are we going to grab a beer? I'm like, I don't know. Like, we're on vacation, man. We're gonna play it by ear. You always wanted to know, like, well, what's going on? Like, what are we having for dinner tomorrow night? I don't know. We'll figure out during the day.
So, John, since you brought that up, one of the things, in the military, that schedule, that rigid schedule and everything, we kind of call it battle rhythm, with meetings and formations and stuff like that. Give our audience a quick snapshot of, during the season, a week of John Schneider. What time are you getting up? What time are you getting to work?
Okay. Yeah, during the season's interesting. So if we're playing at home, hopefully we're winning the game on Sunday. Okay. And then, Monday morning is an early study of the game. What happened with the players. I go through and evaluate all the players. I'll put a grade on them, get together with our staff, get together with the trainers, our medical people, doctors, sports science, see what the week looks like in terms of what we need to do from an acquisition standpoint. Again, this year is unique because we have a 5-day ramp-up window to test for COVID.
Yeah.
But it's I'll send out a report to Miss Jody, our owner, and letting her know, what I thought of the players, what I thought of the game, what kind of grade I gave them for the game, what we're looking like heading in towards the next game, a medical update, a kind of a readiness update. And then, we usually have Tuesday's usually a workout day. So Monday night, you're kind of starting to think about what, starting to look at the next team. We're playing Arizona this week. So last night was a little unique because, we're playing, they were playing Dallas on Monday Night Football. And then just working with Pete in terms of, who we think is going to be active for the game. And how you could use guys, strengths and weaknesses, who's going to be healthier. And then, so the staff knows, the coaching staff knows who they need to focus on at specific positions as we get to play that team. Usually if it's a regular year, I'll hit some, do some college stuff. I might just, zip down to Eugene or zip over to Boise, or try not to get too far away from the team in terms of studying, going to the colleges and studying the college players. We have, 8 guys that are just out studying college ball all the time. We have 4 guys in the office that are just studying pro ball all the time. So we're constantly, studying and evaluating. So that'll be like Wednesday, Thursday, right in there. Try to be back and or meet if we're playing away. I'll meet the team, try to go to a game, see somebody play live that's close in the area to where we're playing. But it's every day brings something different. And so, I've learned that over the years that it's okay just to be here to support Pete and the staff too, and do my college studying here, just do the evaluations here, and then be able to listen to the background and not the background, the background of the players, the character of the players. Mm-hmm. Once we get into our draft prep. So Saturdays, Fridays usually travel day, or we're here, getting ready for a home game. Saturday morning's a walkthrough. I don't usually go to the walkthrough because it's like watching paint dry. Basically like install period, but really just kind of watching as much college ball as you can. And then, hopefully some family time Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening if we're playing home. Again, if we're playing away, try to hit a game. And then, then it's waking up on game day, and believe it or not, I'm probably more nervous than the players because I don't have any control over it, or the coaches, right?
Yeah.
They're watching. Okay. I hope everything goes okay and everybody stays safe, So, and then we start the process all over again. But it's really a lot of meeting and planning with our guys too, in terms of what our strategy looks like for acquisition, and how we can create as much depth for our team as we possibly can throughout the entire season, because it's a long season on these guys, and it's a grind.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting toward that time, brother, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got John, not sure if you were aware of this, but we have rapid fire questions. Rapid fire. Yeah. Not bulleted out. Brother, I'll let you go ahead and kick off the rapid fire.
Yeah. So, John, as the general manager of the Seahawks, obviously, you have a responsibility to be a good steward of the resources that you have. And so, Russell Wilson being a 3rd-round draft pick out of Wisconsin, would you consider that a steal in terms of now you have a guy that arguably is the best player in the National Football League, but he wasn't a 1st rounder or a 2nd rounder. And then the second part of that question is, being an old Wisconsin guy, did you have your eye on this guy long before he was available in the draft?
Yes, I would consider it a steal. Yes. Yes, we were well aware, remember him transferring from North Carolina State to Wisconsin. And then I just think, the draft preparation, and I was just telling somebody about this yesterday, the draft preparation is not necessarily this player is better than that player or that player. It's more about, we grade for our team and what does our team look like currently, and, how do you acquire the player? So,
yeah.
We took 2 players before we took Russ. But it was more about trying to figure out how and where to acquire him. And you're from Davenport, right?
Yeah, Davenport, Iowa.
Oh, cool. My mom's family's from Dubuque.
Right up the road.
There you go.
Look at that. Awesome.
So I've obviously Dustin has quickly become one of my best friends. So I've heard the cool stories of really just what it was like to be at the Super Bowl. And like Dustin says, before I got to 𝘨𝑗, all I know how to do is win wars and Super Bowls, right? Because he was at the Giants, right? And then came out here. And obviously you've been to several, but what which one, was your most memorable? I mean, all memorable, but I mean, what one was just like, wow, this is the one that had probably the heaviest impact?
I mean, the one that had the heaviest impact was sitting right next to Mr. Allen, and during the Denver one, our first one here. It was just the thought that he was such a intelligent man. He would ask great questions all the time, and so to be sitting right next to him, was, when that game was going on, was that one, that part of it, just sitting there watching the guys just get after it that day was really intense, and he was so eclectic too. Like, I mean, he could be talking football with me, and then Paul McCartney walked in I'm not name dropping, okay, but Paul McCartney comes walking in his suite, right, and he's talking to him, and I'm standing over there in the corner with Matt Thomas, our cap guy, going, "That's Paul McCartney right there, man." Like, Paul McCartney's in this box. But yeah, no, I think that was that one. The Green Bay one was, we had talked about having that impeccable communication and talking about talking to the players about where they stand and everything, and I remember having a really good conversation with Desmond Howard in training camp, and just saying, "Hey, man, like, it was right before our last preseason game. Like, hey, you gotta have a great game. You had missed a bunch of time with a hamstring issue." And he's like, "Nah, the coaches know what I can do." And I'm like, "Yeah, they do, but I was in a meeting last night, man, and it's not like a slam dunk." And then sure enough, in the last preseason game against Pittsburgh, he rips off like a 48-yard power trend for a touchdown or something. And so the coaches are like, "Yeah, we love this guy," and then to see the way he finished that season for us was really impactful in terms of having that personal level, that communication with a guy like, hey, if you remember that year, it was the 96 season, and he finished the season incredibly strong for us. And then he scored a kickoff I just remember thinking, like, this is incredible, So, and the funny thing about that was John Dorsey, a good friend of mine who was general manager for Kansas City and in Cleveland, we split a media pass because I forget exactly what happened, but so like I'd go to the bathroom, then he'd go to the bathroom. We were out there like 3 hours before the game. We're thinking, like, security's going to kick us out of here. So we were just on the sidelines, dressed up like coaches.
Wow. Well, hey, John, we're just about out of time here, but it's been an honor having you on here.
No, this is an honor, and again, I hope you guys understand how much admiration I have for the military and everything that you guys do and have done and served, and for all the people that are continuing to serve. And my prayers are always with them, and my wife and I will keep doing what we can to support people that are coming back from supporting our freedoms.
Yeah. Thanks so much, John. It's been awesome hearing from you, and you got out of here being an honorary command sergeant major. So
there you go.
You got the man right here that can do it.
Hey,
just so you know,
we're gonna send you some official rank too, the SEAC rank here, okay? So you can wear it on your uniform.
I appreciate you guys.
Thants, John. Really appreciate it, brother.
Have a great one, John. All right. And we will see you all next week, the Ron and John Show. Tune in Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific. Brother, see you next week. Have a great one.
See you next week. Take care.
The Ron and John Show is brought to you by Veterans Lending Group, where we can assist you with all your home buying and refinance needs. Since we're licensed in all 50 states, we can ETS, PCS, or retire wherever you go. Check out our education classes at VAHomeloanBootcamp.com for our free classes, and you can also visit our website at VeteransLendingGroup.com. Make sure to follow the Ron and John Show on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Hey, folks, we hope you enjoyed our guest this week.
Thanks for tuning into the Ron and John Show, and we'll see you next week.
Boom!